Well, hello there. So I'm going to make a simple owl eye hat. And owl eye is the first stitch I created and my favorite stitch, really, followed by juniper stitch, my second favorite stitch I created. Okay, so I'm using a 42 peg loom, 5/8 inch Cindy wood loom, so it's 4 bulky yarn, and I'm using a bulky yarn, and this one is I Love This Chunky Yarn by Hobby Lobby, and it's in the color Plum Garden. I think I already said that, but if not, there it is, Plum Garden. And okay, well, we're just going to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is cast on, and I just make a simple slip knot. I just twist it like that, just like that, and put the yarn through. There you go. And I put that on the first peg. Some people put it on there because they don't want to have that little knot in there, but I always hide it. You don't see it. Okay, and I'm going to take the loom hook, put it inside the hook, and scoop it up so that I have a loop. And I'm going to pull this, and because I have this kind of loom, I'm just going to secure it on here, but you can just pull it and keep it tight. But I'm just going to put it on here just to keep it tight. And it came off there just to keep it tight so I can keep my stitches nice and tight and even. And then I just take the loop, put it behind the pegs, and tighten it up. And that's all you do. You keep doing it. You're in control of how big this loop is or how small this loop is just by pulling. Very, very easy cast on. And with the owl eye hat, you can use any cast on you want. I just prefer a nice flat one. If you're using E-wrap, what can happen is E-wrap has that slight curl. But you can use whatever you like, especially if you use a row of knit and a row of purl. Okay, so it doesn't take long to cast on. It goes pretty fast with this. I'll just put you on pause and we'll catch up when I get closer to being at the starting peg. Okay, I'm coming near the end, so I'm going to take this off. There we go. Forgot which way I put it on there. And we're just going to do this. And the last one I usually just put right on. I have different ways I do this. This one I'm going to do like this, and I just knit that off, and then I knit this one off. And there I am, all cast on. Okay, so then we're going to do one row of U-wrap and then one row of purl. Okay, so I'm just going to do U-wrap on the first peg, U-wrap on the second peg, and just U-wrap all the way around the loom. And we'll catch up when I get around and do the one row of purl. Okay, my last U-wrap. And then we do one row of purl. And that just is so that it will stay nice and straight near the cast on. Okay, so we just purl all the way around. You should know how to do a purl. You just put the hook in the loop, pull the new loop through, and then put it on the peg. There's lots and lots of videos on purl, though, if you don't know how. You can get away a lot of times without even doing the row of knit and purl and going right into owl eye, but it really depends on your tightness. Having the right tightness to go with it. This is always safer, especially it can vary with yarns too. So I always do the row of knit and the row of purl on the first couple rows. Okay, so we'll catch up when we get all the way around the loom. Okay, I've done my last row of purl, so we're ready to just start into the stitch. Now, all we do is on the first peg, we do a U-wrap, knit it off, come back around it in front and go over peg 1 and peg 2 and knit them both off. And if you keep it nice and loose, it'll be a lot easier for you to knit it. Okay, so whatever peg you're on is peg 1, you go behind and over peg 1 and 2, and you just knit it off. You're behind peg 1, you go in front of peg 1 and 2, and you just knit it off. And you just keep doing that. So every peg is getting 2 stitches on it. 1 here. When you go back around, go over this one, it gets 2. That's all there is to it. When you just keep going around and around, doing this stitch until you get the length that you want. So we will catch up in a bit, and we will see you soon. Okay, so I've got a bit further along so you can have a look at it. And you can see how it's looking. I really like it in this yarn. I think it looks really, really nice. And you can see the back. I am going to likely make it reversible because I love the way that Owl Eye looks in the back of these hats. Okay, so I'm going to keep going until I've got it long enough that I'm ready to bind it off. And you just do your regular hat size. Use a chart if you need to know. And if you're making a beanie style, do it that length. If you're going to make a more slouchy, longer style, do it that length. Okay, so we will catch up when we're ready to bind off. And now we can go ahead and bind it off. And I'm just going to do a slightly decreased bind off so I don't get a lot of bulk. And it's pretty easy to do. So all we're going to do first is do a row of E-wrap. And it doesn't matter which stitch you ended with, whether you ended with the Jupiter stitch or the U-wrap, it'll work fine either way. So we're just going to E-wrap nice and loose all the way around the loom. And the reason you want to keep it loose is you're going to have to move some stitches, and you want to them to be fairly loose to move. I just kind of gently push it to make sure I'm keeping it nice and loose. Okay, and then you're just going to knit the last one to secure it. Knit it over, and then you're just going to go around the loom and knit off the E-wrap. Okay, so I'll just put you on pause and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to go by twos all the way around the loom, and every second peg is going to go on the first peg, the yarn. So you're going to take it off and you're just going to move it over to the peg before it. So just taking it off and moving it to the peg before it. And you're just going to go all the way around the loom. So you'll have 2 loops on peg 1, nothing, 2 loops on peg 2, nothing, or two loops over here. And you're just going to keep doing that so that every second peg will be blank and every second peg will have the 2 loops on it. Okay? So if you are on a uneven loom, you won't have an even amount of pegs, so you just don't bother doing the last one. Doesn't really matter. And because I kept this nice and loose, it's quite easy for me to move these over. Just awkward because the angle I have it, but okay, so I'm going to put you on pause, and as you see how this is looking, and we're just going to meet up when we have that done. Okay, now that you have that all done, all you're going to do is go around the loom and knit the bottom one over the top, like that. And that reduces the bulk so that your cast off and the back of your hat will lay a lot flatter. And more, and then the one more, and there we are, and there's the working yarn coming out of this one. And then all we're going to do is, with the working yarn, go around the loom 1.5 times and just cut your yarn. Now you can either use your loom hook or a needle, and we're just going to go up and scoop up the loops so we can do a drawstring bind off. And I usually use a needle, but if you were going to use your loom hook, which is easy to do with this method, you just take the yarn and pull it through like that. And if you have a needle, you just put the needle on and you're going to pick it up the same way. I usually use a needle. This is so much easier though when you're doing it sometimes. On a bigger loom, I'd for sure want a needle. Okay, so I'm just going to put you on pause and we'll pick it all up and I'll see you at the beginning. Okay, now when we get all the way around, we make sure we pick up the very first stitch that we had already picked up. You want to make sure that every peg is on here. Now all you have to do is take all the pegs off the loom. You just go around and you just flip them off. I'm just holding on to the drawstring here because I want to make sure that it doesn't come off. And we just take them all off. And you can even do it with your fingers. And there we go. All off the loom. We can just put the loom to the side. We don't need it anymore. And then you're going to take the working yarn and you're just going to drawstring the brim closed. Okay, you're just going to make sure that So like that. And then when you get it about halfway, you're just going to take the working yarn and put it through the hat and flip it this way, because we're going to finish it on the wrong side. And we just bind it up, and as you see here, it's going to be not as bulky as it would have been. We've thinned that out. Okay, and now this is when we do need a needle. So I'm just going to get a needle. I have a needle in this handy dandy little thing. And also you can cut the working yarn a lot shorter. You just need to sew that close. So I'm going to cut it to about there and put the needle through the yarn, or the yarn through the needle. Okay, there we go. So that's threaded, and we're just going to sew this closed. So what I do is, now that I've bound it up, is I kind of pinch it so I can see where that edge was, and then I make sure it's pulled nice and tight. There's the hole in the middle, so I just want to pinch it so I'm at that hole in the middle. And then I just take the needle and I just sort of sew around in a circle around that hole, just picking up some loops. Okay, and then I'm going to actually do a knot. And my loom wants, or my yarn wants to be all weird. Go, and I'm going to do another knot. Just want to make sure that this doesn't come apart. I'm just going to go to the other side. And make another knot. And then you can sew the working yarn in if you'd like. I just actually, because it's not going to be reversible, I just cut it and leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. Doesn't bother me. And the other side of your hat looks like this. It's a lot thinner, but we'll take it. And we'll stretch our stitches, because that's what you always do when you make a hat, is you stretch your stitches. You pull it every way and make sure it's all stretched out. And then there's your hat. It's looking really nice. The top is flattened a lot better, your beanie hat, than it would have been. And there you go. You have a beautiful beanie hat. Okay, so here's our beanie hat all done. And here's how it looks. And it looks nice on all sides. That's a nice thing about this stitch, is you don't see a jog. Just looks good on all sides. And then we've got the reduced brim, and it ended up really nice with this yarn. Look at the pattern. Looks really nice. So there's your reduced brim, nice and flat. You can put a pom-pom on it if you like pom-poms. And if you want to use the other side, and then of course I'd weave that in as well. If you want to make it reversible, I do like the other side of Owl Eye. It's a nice stitch too. Okay. And I will weave that in. Okay. So anyway, here's your beanie hat. And the other thing about Owl Eye, it's nice and stretchy always. which is nice. If you feel you made it a little small or something, it will still fit you and it will still stretch out. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and it's about time I made a actual hat and just owl eye. I always make them with other things mixed with the owl eye, or I break up the owl eye with some other stitch, but this one was just pure owl eye, and people have been asking me for this one, and I especially wanted to show you that owl eye looks different in the round than it does as a flat panel. Okay, so until next time, bye.